My name is Isabelle Mitchell, and this is my survivor story. I met my boyfriend at the time when I was 16, freshly 16. He was 21, so the age gap was not legal. Got to a point where he tried to turn me against my parents, and he was trying to isolate me. He was promising me at the age of 16 that he was going to marry me and have my kids. He's the reason I got birth control, and I got the implant, and there was one time, multiple times actually, where he would try to break my arm so he could break the implant and try to get me pregnant. And I'll never forget, I told him that having a baby right now would ruin my life. He didn't care about my school, he didn't care about my future, he just wanted me to himself. And I told him that having a baby right now would ruin my life. This man looks at me with the darkest look in his eyes and just slaps me right across the face for just saying that a baby with him would ruin my life right now. You know, again, I was so young and naive, I didn't know what red flags were. I didn't know the difference between red and green flags in a person. So I just, I got the warnings, but I thought they were normal. So I was like, y'all don't know what you're talking about. And then I found out for myself. It made me feel absolutely worthless. And it got to a point where I just didn't want to live anymore, because I didn't think I had anything good going for me, just based off what I went through. And I tried to take my life, but I was unsuccessful, thank God. If I could say anything to younger me, I would say things are gonna get so much better, and you will become a person that you didn't even imagine that you could become. Your anxiety is a liar, and there's so many good things that are gonna come out of the trials and tribulations, and it'll be worth it. We didn't deserve what happened to us, but it sure did develop our character, and we're stopping people from experiencing the same thing, and that's what matters. An organization like Sonia's does need to be spread around. We can't shield young people from this information, because if we shield them from it, they're gonna have to learn through experience, which is exactly why I'm here today. And we need an organization like this to start prevention. The epidemic of people finding out through experience just because, they grow up getting shielded from this information, it needs to stop. We need to be educated about this stuff in order to prevent shame, guilt that we don't even deserve. This information, it does need to be spread, and if we keep it a secret, this problem's only gonna grow.
All right, Izzy, come up here. She is amazing, and she's gonna, everybody after the event last year asked me, that girl that gave that video, like, what is she doing now? How is she doing? So I'm like, well, you get to come back and give us a little update of what you've been up to.
Yeah. Well, do I have an update for you guys? Because God has just been moving. But when was that video filmed, Sonia? January of last year. Okay, so around exactly that month. So ever since I last filmed that video, of course, it got broadcasted at the last event. But at that time, I did start my career, which I am an early child educator at Vacaville Christian Schools. I work in kindergarten readiness department, so I get 4-year-olds ready for kindergarten and get to teach them about the love of Jesus. If you don't know him, that's fine, but I'm just saying, this is part of my story, so that's just where I've been taken, okay? So, but I've been doing that graciously for the past year and a half. Never thought, if someone told 16-year-old me that I would be where I'm at today, I would be hysterically laughing and be like, you're joking. But so I've been excelling in my career since then, and also just honestly continuing to heal, because when you go through something that traumatic, it takes a while, and there's always layers to peel off. There's always coping mechanisms to break. There's always habits, hurts, and hang-ups that you got to get to the root of and chop off those old roots to grow new ones and healthier ones. So for the past year, I've just still been getting really connected in community, staying in my church, meeting. I've met so many amazing women that have been pouring into me continuously, and I've gotten the opportunity to pour into other women as well. I've been a part of this recovery program called Celebrate Recovery. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of it. Okay, good. So typically that is, again, at churches. This is just my story, okay? But that's typically thrown at churches where you're able to just get to the root of your hurts, habits, and hang-ups that you might struggle with and see why you struggle with them. Because after going through a domestic violent relationship, a lot of hurts, habits, and hang-ups come up. So I'm still to this day, wanting to change. I don't want to stay the same. I don't want to cope in an unhealthy way from this, and just continue to grow and apply what I've been learning from this whole situation. So I have been a part of Celebrate Recovery at the Father's House in Vacaville for ever since January, but just recently started stepping into leadership there, praise God. So just trying to help other people. Yes.
You have a guy here?
Oh, I do? I was getting to that. Thank you. That's another big update. So after like 3 years of singleness, just being alone, focus, the most amazing man has came into my life this year. Through God, everything I have spent the last 3 years praying, writing down everything I wanted, changing to become the woman I wanted to be. And this year, I met the most amazing man that I have been spending the last 3 years praying for. His name is Miles. Miles, stand up, please. Come on, my love. Ti amo. But I am just seriously, just the way he loves me, like every single day, parts of my inner 16-year-old self are always healed. And he's just amazing. It just feels so good to have a relationship where we can honor God, pray together, worship together, but also have fun together and just get to know each other every single day and just have fun. And he's also been stepping into leadership at Celebrate Recovery with me. So seriously, he has so much integrity, so much strength, leads me closer to the woman that I'm meant to be. And I am just so blessed, and I love you so much, and I couldn't be more grateful for you, and I love you forever. And I just thank God for you every single day. So yeah, that my life has totally turned around. The weapons formed did not prosper, and they never will. But yeah, I'm just standing in a completely different place that I never would have seen myself standing in at 16.
I'm so happy. Miles, take care of this girl. Thank you so much. Oh, we have something for you. We have some flowers. Oh, right here. Those are from the Empowerment Project, Bo, just as a thank you.
They're beautiful.
We have some other flowers, but, oh, here they are. Yay, Miles. But thank you so much. Okay, this takes a lot of courage, you guys, a lot of courage. And so let's give it up for, come on, we're going to get louder. Like, let's give it up for her. Yes, thank you. Thank you. All right, so we're going to bring on our keynote speaker. He's going to talk to us about digital and cyber abuse. Actually, I met Adam when I was going through the legislation, and he worked for an organization called Laura's House, and they're a big organization in SoCal and Orange County, and he was part of their prevention and education and department, and they were very, 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 very supportive of my bill. In fact, I found them because I watched Dr. Phil at the time, and Dr. Phil is a huge supporter of domestic violence and their shelters and their organization. So, but they were a huge support of mine. So, actually, my partner in my organization, she lives in SoCal, Jennifer. She couldn't make it tonight. Her son, unfortunately, is in the hospital, but she is my vice president. But I met her there, and she's great. She works for the California Coalition to Prevent Domestic Violence and Partnership to End Domestic Violence. So also, real quick before I have Adam come up, we're going to end the silent auction. We're ending the raffle and silent auction at, probably now. So sorry, guys. I thought we had more time, but I want to bring Adam up here because he goes around. He actually has his own company now, and he talks about digital and cyber abuse. And I think especially with our young people, if you guys, we have kids, even for ourselves, like what is out there, what's going on, how do we protect ourselves, how do we protect our kids, and he's going to tell us a little bit about that. So if we could give a round of applause for Adam.
I don't know if you all do a lot of public speaking, but you don't want to go after somebody who just crushes it. So I'm feeling a lot of pressure right now. Izzy, that was amazing. Wow. Yeah, I'm really blown away. It's really great to be here with you all. I am such a big fan of Sonia and her work, and listening to actually Izzy talk about in her video about why the work that Sonia's organization, what they do is so important is it's about prevention and education, right? And what that really means is that it's stopping abuse before it starts, right? And that is the most powerful thing that we can do, right? If we can prevent harm in our communities amongst youth, that is just game-changing. And unfortunately, I mean, it's a tall order to begin with, but technology has really complicated our work. I'm here to talk to you about tech-facilitated abuse and teen dating violence in the digital age, but I'm not a tech expert. I don't come from the tech world. I come from the victim services world. And I mention this not to make you question why you should listen to me talk tonight, but to understand you don't have to be a tech expert or even be tech savvy to prevent tech-facilitated abuse in relationships of really people of any age. And so tonight, what I want to really impart on you all are some sort of tangible things that any of us can do in our personal or professional lives to prevent tech-facilitated domestic violence, tech-facilitated relationship violence. And what is that? Well, it's really just the ways in which really familiar forms of abuse, power and control, intimidation, isolation, jealousy, all these things are taking place online and via our devices. But what I want to lead with is sort of a mindset, right? Like, why has technology complicated our work? Why has it made it more difficult? And I'm going to ask you all a question, so I'm going to ask for a show of hands. This is a question I ask in a lot of my presentations in high schools and universities. So, show of hands. Who thinks people change when they go online? Who thinks yes? Who thinks no? One hand. Anybody else? There's no right or wrong answer. Okay. So, it is the overwhelming majority of us, right, find that people change when they're online. Why do we know this? Why were we able to just raise our hands so quickly like that? Because we spend a lot of time online, right? It's instinctual. We didn't even have to think about it, right? And when I ask students, when I ask young adults this question, they do the same thing. They tell me the same thing. They're like, yeah, obviously, dude, people change when they're online. Well, then I have a follow-up question, which I'm going to pose to you all as well. If we all agree, or most of us agree, that people are changing when they're online, when they're behind a screen, do you think on average when people change, they become, and I know this is a tough question, it's a nuanced question, but I'm going to ask you to answer this in one of two ways. When people change online, do you think on average people become better versions of themselves when they change? I'm already seeing some head shakes now. Let me get there. Or do you think that people become worse versions of themselves on average? Not all the time, but just if we had to lean one way or the other. Who thinks on average people become worse versions of themselves when they change online? Show of hands. Who thinks people become better versions of themselves? Way less. So this tracks. I ask this question a lot, and I usually get about 80% of the people say worse, and about 20% say better, and then a bunch of you didn't raise your hands at all, and I'm keeping an eye on all of you. And I would argue that even when people become better versions of themselves online, that actually can be negative, right? If you meet somebody on a dating app and they're showing you a version of themselves that isn't really consistent with who they are in reality, that can actually be worse for the person. Or if you feel like you have to project this version of yourself on social media because you feel like you have to keep up with other people, that can actually be a negative on your well-being, on your mental health. So what's going on here? Why are people changing online, and why do most of us believe that when people change, they may tend to become worse versions of themselves? Why might people say or do things online that they wouldn't say to us on the street or in the physical world? Does anybody have a thought? Why do we know this? Anybody? Cowards. Cowards, okay. But why? What's behind that? It's easier to say things online than to somebody's face. Why? Why is it easier? You're not looking at them, you're not I think somebody said no accountability. No repercussions, right? If I go up and say something that's harmful or insulting to somebody on the streets, there could be some really immediate repercussions, right? But if I say the same thing online to somebody that I don't know, or drop it on a comment or something like that, I just move on with my day. There's no backlash to me at all, right? And another reason I might say something online that I wouldn't say to somebody to their face, I could be anonymous online. Right? So there's no immediate consequence to me. I can be anonymous. And because the person's not in front of me, I don't even see the impact that my words have had on that person, right? Like, I may have just destroyed that person's day, but I have no idea because I don't see it. So it doesn't let me practice empathy at all, right? And this is where people are growing up and spending their time, and their minds are developing online, in online spaces. And the people that we're encountering in online spaces, all of us mostly agree, are changing their behavior, and most of us agree that they're saying and doing things that might be worse online than they are offline. And I think that's a really good argument for prioritizing prevention and violence prevention around this idea of digital safety, that our digital safety is just as important as our physical safety. You know, when abuse goes, when abuse goes digital, like I said, it's not new abuse, but it does become amplified. There is no better example of this than with, let me ask the room, has anybody here heard of revenge porn before? Revenge porn? Okay, it's a term we don't love to use in the field, but it is the sharing of an intimate image of somebody without their consent. Okay? It's a massive problem. It's illegal in the state of California. It's illegal in 49 states, actually. Right? Big problem. Okay? When I walk into rooms and I ask people, have you heard of this term revenge porn before? A lot of people will nod their head, you know, they'll raise their hand. But if I went back 30 years, 40 years from now and said, y'all ever heard of revenge porn before? I don't think a single hand would go up. I don't think I'd get a single nod. Well, what's changed? Because that type of abuse existed before. People had intimate photos, nude photos of people that they would threaten to share with other people or would actually show to other people as a form of abuse. Now we have laws against it, we have names against it. Why? Because it's a familiar form of abuse. I'll do these presentations in schools and I'll say, you know, somebody in 1980 could have taken a Polaroid of somebody in the nude and then shared it with their friends. That's revenge porn. That's an act of sharing an intimate image without consent. And the students' hands inevitably will go up and I think, oh man, I'm really connecting with these kids. And I'll ask them, well, yeah, what's up? And they'll be like, yeah, what's a Polaroid? So I've stopped using that example. But you get my point, right? Now, if I had shown a Polaroid or a hard copy photo of somebody as a means to try to threaten them or harm them, the people that I show it to, it only lives on in their mind, right? But if I post that photo online or I text it to somebody, what happens? Now it's on, I heard forever. Yeah, the internet's forever. That person now goes from having to live with that, they have to live with that trauma permanently, right? The trauma, because they have to live the rest of their life knowing that that photo can show up. And threatening to share intimate images or actually sharing intimate images is a huge part of teen dating violence. I get called in to talk to schools about this all the time, right? So the playing field is set that even though people are changing and maybe for the worse online and abuse can become amplified online, we really lack sort of the safety instincts. Our fight, flight, or freeze instincts are really designed for the physical world, right? Not virtual worlds, right? A kid might encounter a stranger on the street and they might start backing away. Something instinctual, something hardwired, something primal is telling them to run or get out of there. But they might meet that same stranger online and none of those instincts kicked in, right? Because they're not designed for online spaces. So if they're not occurring naturally, they need to be learned. And that's where we can really have impact. Because we can start talking about these online situations that are very foreseeable, these online challenges, these online forms of abuse, and empower people, really of any age, to prevent it from happening to them. So I'm going to give you some examples. I'm going to give you an example of a case I worked on, and I'm going to ask you to help me sort of unravel it. And I know there's a lot of law enforcement in the room, so I feel like the deck's stacked against me a little bit on this one, but I'm going to go forward anyway. So this was a case that I worked on where a survivor she had been in an abusive relationship for a long time. And she was able to get out. She got assistance from our agency, and she really just wanted to work on herself for well over a year. She got therapy. She worked on herself. And then after about a year, she decided that she wanted to get back out there and wanted to get on the dating apps. But she was really uncomfortable because of her prior experience. So she decided to take some precautions. She said, I'm going to get on these dating apps, but I'm just going to check it out. I'm just going to like dip a toe in. I'm going to see if this is for me. And I'm going to take privacy precautions. So I'm not going to use my real name, my real age. I'm not going to say where I work, where I go to school, where I live, what my social media profile is. I'm only going to use 2 photos of myself. I'm going to, bless you, not going to say a thing about myself because I just want to see what it's like. And so she got on there and she started matching with guys and she would chat with them a little bit and then she would unmatch with them pretty quickly after the chat was over, after chatting with them for a little bit. She's like, yeah, this is okay. And everything was going fine. And then she matched with this guy named Matt, who's not a tech expert of any kind. They chat back and forth for a little bit, and she unmatches with him. No big deal. Except in this case, 5 minutes later, she gets a text, and it says, "Hey, Jen," her real name, not the name she used on the dating app, her real name. "It's Matt from Tinder. You think you can get rid of me that easy?" Kissy face emoji. I don't know if he was trying to be cute or what, but it scared the living daylights out of her. And she felt like he had hacked her life, that he had just gotten into all her accounts and that she was no longer safe. Because when you feel like all your technology and your accounts and your apps are not safe anymore, you start looking around and it's like, it's everywhere. We rely on our devices to do everything. And if those aren't safe, if we're not digitally safe, we're not safe anywhere. But we know Matt's not a tech expert. So how did he do it? How did Matt, a non-tech expert, given how careful she was, how was he able to text her in 5 minutes using her real name? What did he do? Anybody have any thoughts? Yes, reverse image search. All right? So she used 2 photos of herself. He downloads them. He goes to images.google.com, free website, uploads the photo. Google searches the internet for that photo, finds her Instagram profile, which is private, but it was her Instagram profile photo. And he gets her name. But the clock's ticking. It doesn't have her phone number on there. So what does he do next? What does a non-tech expert who has somebody's name and wants to get their phone number, what does he do next? Fast people search. Spot on. There you go. Y'all ever heard of fastpeoplesearch.com before? Ever looked yourself up on fastpeoplesearch.com? I'm seeing some like big head nods. If you haven't, definitely worth doing. I'm going to have some resources at the end that you can take off a QR code that you can opt yourself out. But you would be stunned what shows up without paying for anything on fastpeoplesearch.com. Every address you've ever lived at, all your family members, phone numbers, emails, etc. Which, by the way, if you ever get the question for your password reset question, like what street did you grow up on and what's your mom's maiden name, always lie. Always, always lie. You can literally say none of your damn business in the answer, right? Because that information is so easy for anybody, even a non-technical person like myself, to get off fastpeoplesearch.com. So the dude just used Google, right? Google image search, goes to Google, Fast People Search shows up, he goes there, gets her phone number, texts her. So there's a couple things that we can learn from this. Because the one thing that they don't teach in high school, to my knowledge, is online dating safety. Okay? And then once kids turn 18, and sometimes before, they get on the apps. A lot of them get on the apps. And they're sharing information, they might be putting their social media handles on there, and it's giving all these randos access to information and giving them information that maybe that person is not ready for strangers to know. Right? So what can we do about this? Well, the first thing, if I could have gone back in time and talked to this person before she did this, I would have told her to not use a photo that had ever been published on the internet before. Because if we do that, then if you go to Google image search, guess what's not going to show up? That photo. I would also encourage her to opt out of these data broker sites. And I'm going to give you a resource, I'll just pass around the QR codes, that has links to all these resources where you can opt out of these sites. I even have a resource that has like 50 of them with instructions on how to opt yourself out of these sites. And if you have looked yourself up on fastpeoplesearch.com while I was talking, which happens, has anybody looked themselves up? Anybody find anything? Right there. Do you want to share? Everything. Current address, cell phone number, family's names, everything. Anybody else? Isn't that bonkers? For free, right? It's pretty stunning how easy it is to violate. So fastpeoplesearch.com /removal, you can opt yourself out of the site. And I'll give you but this is what people are able to do. They're able to violate our privacy so easily. So I would have told her to use a private photo, and then I would have encouraged her to opt out. And in the resources I want to give you today, there's a couple other things we can do. Do you know you can blur your home on Google Street View? Because if somebody has your address, they can virtually stand outside your home. They can see what kind of car you drive. They can see if there's kids' toys in the front yard. They can see if you have a fence around your house or anything like that. They can learn things that we don't want them to know. So you can blur your home on Google Maps, and you can opt your personal identifying information out of Google so that when people search you, all those search results with your name and phone number and everything else don't show up in the search results. Because Matt is not, in this circumstance, is not a tech expert. And if we take these really low-hanging fruit away from him, he would not be able to violate her privacy that way. There's even Google, in the resource I'm going to give you, there's even a resource called, a thing called Results About You that you can set up in Google that'll show you everything that shows up on the internet about you if people search for you. And then they'll help you get it taken down if you want to. So we can exercise control over our digital footprint. So let's say I'm really proud of myself, and I go back in time and I tell this person, hey, use a private photo. That's going to protect you. And so she does that, and she uses a private photo that's never been posted on the internet. Same thing happens. She meets Matt. They chat a little bit. She unmatches with him, and the same thing happens. 5 minutes later, he texts her, hey, Jen, it's Matt from Tinder. You think you can get rid of me that easy? What the what? What happened here? How did Matt do it this time? We took away the photo. How was he able to violate her privacy this time? The new threat we need to know about is that we can now search for photos of people with facial recognition. So what Matt did in this circumstance is he went to a website. Anybody heard of PimEyes before? Okay, so this is good. I'm giving you information you don't already have. So PimEyes is image search, but instead of searching for the photo, it searches for the person. I did it. I uploaded my LinkedIn profile photo, and it found 138 pictures of me all over there, including ones where I was like 10 or 15 years younger. This used to be only available to law enforcement and governmental entities, and now it's available to the public. In fact, 2 kids from Harvard last week Ray-Bans partnered with Meta, where they have the sunglasses with the cameras in them, and they connected it to PimEyes. They wrote some code so that they'd walk by people, it'd take a picture of them, it'd send it to PimEyes, and then they would get that person's information sent to their phone in about 30 seconds. So now this is in the hands of people who aren't tech experts, who can search for our faces. And it's a real privacy violation. And kids, really adults too, but people who are going to be online as young adults or are going to be going through digital adolescence should understand how to keep their personal information private, right? So a lot of the steps that we can take, I just talked about. But the good news about PimEyes is you can opt out of PimEyes. But if we don't know that it exists, we can't proactively opt out of it, right? This is why we need to know about this stuff so we can educate our communities. Because I am already seeing stalking cases. Somebody gets rejected at the bar, let's say, and secretly snaps a picture of the person who rejected them, and by the time they hit the sidewalk outside, they found the person on PimEyes and know who they are. They're not tech experts, they're just using a publicly available website. So this is why, going back to Izzy's video about raising awareness and education is so important. Because people that are up to no good are counting on us not knowing about this stuff. But if we know about it, we can stay one step ahead of them instead of them staying one step ahead of us. And that's where I get really excited about this work and having these talks and talking about these things. Because it sounds like, depending on your generation, a Black Mirror episode or a Twilight Zone episode, right? Like, are you serious? There's kids walking around with glasses that can like grab my face and then look it up. Yeah, but that's the world we live in now. But luckily, we can, through education and awareness, stay one step ahead. I don't know how long I've been talking here, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Okay, I'm going to close. So, in relationships, whether you're ending a healthy relationship or an unhealthy relationship. Usually, you know, when relationships end, sometimes stuff needs to get exchanged, or maybe you give a key back or whatever. But I would encourage us to sort of expand the way we think about ending a relationship, healthy or otherwise. Because I don't know if any of you have a teenager or a young adult in their life. Does anybody have anybody in their life who is sharing their location with like 10 friends in real time all the time? Is that something you would be comfortable? Is that something? Only your kids, yeah. So I see this a lot. People are sharing their location with real time, with like their friend groups, right? And when relationships end, there's this digital entanglement that happens where the average person has 90 online accounts and 80 apps on their phone. That's 170 different ways that we can be digitally entangled with someone. If that person means to do us harm, that could be deeply problematic. But because it's invisible to the naked eye and we actually don't see this, like if somebody's still in our house, it's like, hey, you got to get out of my house. But if somebody's still in my account and reading my emails, reading my messages, monitoring my location, I may have no idea. Because I was in a relationship with this person, maybe we were sharing devices, maybe we were sharing accounts, things like that. And so it's not something that's top of mind. But having that information in the hands of somebody who means to do us harm, think about it. Think about how much our location, our private information, our financial information, there's really gives a lot to power and control. So, if a friend came to you and said, hey, I think my ex is in my Instagram account, and I want to prove it. How can we help them prove that their ex has been messing around in their Instagram account and maybe making changes or deleting things? Does anybody have any thoughts? What was that? Do you have Instagram? I do. All right, take your phone out. Let's do it together. Actually, everybody who has Instagram, we can do this together if you want. So go ahead and open Instagram. Try not to get distracted. It's like the most dangerous public speaking thing I do is have people get on social media while I'm giving a talk. Okay, so tap your profile photo in the bottom right-hand corner. That's going to take you to your profile page.
Can you do this if your account's public?
Can you do this if your account's public?
Yeah. What you're doing right now?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's your own account.
Oh.
I have terrible reception right now, but hopefully this works. So then in the upper right-hand corner, you see those 3 lines? Go ahead and hit that. That's going to bring you to your settings. And man, I don't have good reception right now. Does anybody else have good reception? Okay, so I'm going to have to do this off the top of my head then. Account center at the top. And then do you see something that says password and security? Okay, tap password and security. And then do you see something that says where you're logged in? Tap where you're logged in. Yes, I did it from the top, from memory. So what's going to show up here is every device that is actively logged into your account. So if you were ever talking to somebody who's worried that someone's reading their messages, their emails, doing anything, we can very confidently say, I can help you figure that out. And this is not just an Instagram thing. Google does this, TikTok does this, Lyft, Uber, they all do this. You can see who's logged into your account. So not only can we verify if someone else is logged in, we can learn something about it. Because what does it say? It says the type of device that's logged in and where it's logged in from. And if it's our ex, we know what kind of device they have. We know where they live or work or go to school. So it doesn't catch them red-handed, but it does allow us to take that in to get a restraining order from a judge or take it to the school or Title IX or law enforcement or a prosecutor. But we should know, just like we should know if someone has a key to our car or is inside our home, we should know if other people, especially those who mean to do us harm, are in our accounts. This should be common knowledge. But it's not something we're thinking about during a breakup, but we should be. Because it may have happened because we shared accounts or devices, or it may have happened because the person did it without our knowledge or consent. And we can just move on with our lives. I've worked on so many cases where people are being monitored, they had no idea. Because, and this is where I'll finish, is that a lot of people say, well, I get notifications from Amazon and Google. If someone tries to log into my account, I get an alert. But you only get an alert if it's a strange device, a device that has never logged into your account before. But if it's a current or former partner, those are familiar devices very often. So all these billion-dollar security systems that Google, I've talked to the head of Google's cloud security about this. I said, what can we do about this? He's like, I got nothing. It's like the call's coming from inside the house. Like, it looks like a safe device to us. This is why we need to be talking about this. This is why this needs to be part of awareness and education, right? Everybody's got a smartphone. Everybody's got tons of apps. We should know if someone's in there. And then if you see a device that you don't recognize, I encourage people to take a screenshot and then kick them out. You can tap it and remove the device, and then update the password. Always kick them out first. It's like if you had an intruder in your house and you went and you changed the alarm code before you got them out of the house. It's like, no. Let's get them out, then update the code, right? So, I'm not a tech expert. I don't think anything I talked about was techie today, right? We all use technology so much. And that puts us in a really powerful position to have impact in our communities and to keep our families safe, to talk about this openly, right? About dating safety, about account safety, through the lens of healthy relationships. And by doing that, we can start filling this gap that our instincts have left, because our safety instincts really don't work well online. But as a community, through education, through supporting each other, through talking about this, these digital instincts that aren't occurring naturally can become learned. And then they become second nature. And then when those people have kids, they'll teach their kids, and we'll see cultural change. So that's where I get excited. So I really appreciate you all taking the time to listen to me chat about this tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity, Sonia, to be here with you all. I do have all those resources, the opt-outs, the see what's showing up on Google. I have some QR codes printed out that I'll pass around that you can grab with your phone and use them, share them, do whatever you can. But it's going to take a village. Right? It's going to take a community, and I see an amazing community here in this room, so I'm really excited to have had this opportunity with you all. Thank you so, so much.
Adam Dodge, thank you again. Give it up for Adam Dodge. And the idea of maybe having a cultural shift in the way we think about safety in our devices. That is very important stuff. Thank you, Adam.